What's up guys, Scott here. Man, I can't wait to show you guys this video. Anyway, I just wanted to point out that the dudes at Panda Sound were kind enough to shoot me a review copy of this bass instrument. I just wanted to be upfront with you about that at first. It's funny actually because I originally contacted them seeing if I could review one of their one of their drum samples. But they thought, actually we could use some more bass reviews. So I said, hey, give me the bass instrument and I'll be happy to have a look at it. Either way, if it was their drums or bass, it's a win-win for you guys. So let's get on with it. By the way, once again, in the description are all the timestamps now for the videos that I'm doing. I'm putting timestamps for everything I do now. So if you want to just skip ahead, just please check out the description and skip ahead to the part that you want to see first. So let's get this thing started. So I had actually run into the Panda Sound website previously, maybe about a year or so ago. But finding out a bit more about them when we were contacting each other via email, they're actually from Russia and Ukraine. They're a bunch of different guys from Russia and Ukraine. I thought that was cool because I currently live in Kiev, so it's nice to hear that some dudes are putting out some quality stuff from this side of the world. Incidentally, I asked them, where did they get the name Panda Sound? I mean, Panda Sound. And it sounds like it was just a unanimous decision. They all liked the name Panda, so they went with Panda Sound, so that's cool. Anyway, moving on with the store page here. The store page looks good, looks nice and professional. Got a number of audio samples and video tutorials and whatever, as usual, but you can watch all that in your own time when you're checking out the page. The first thing I noticed is that this is version 1.1, which is a great sign because companies that support their products with updates generally keep their customers happy. So this comes in only DI format, which means you can do anything you want to it, so it's maximum flexibility. There's a huge note range here. We got various options of up and down and alternate picking. And actually, looks like that update probably was this intelligent alternate picking script, which I'm curious about. But here on the bottom, actually, the instrument controlled by MIDI velocity. Now, I really like this. This is awesome. One of the downsides, I wouldn't say downsides, really, it's just a difference. So one of the downsides of using Corey Brunneman's bass VST is they use key switches, which is, again, totally fine. But, there wasn't a lot of documentation, so I had to actually figure out what each key switch did. But after I had done that, it wasn't a big deal. It was all good. But as we see here, we got a nice graphic telling us exactly which velocity does what. So there's not a lot of guesswork, and it's going to be nice. Instrument here is a Carbon LB75. It's got 5 strings. It's active, going through a pretty good signal chain. Down below, we can see all the velocities in the neat graphic, which I just talked about. Very helpful. Clicking on the navigation tabs up here, we're going to get the Panda Bass NKI, obviously, otherwise that would be weird. Some Pod Farm presets, which mean absolutely nothing to me. And a manual. Whoa, dear Lord, we actually get a frickin' manual. Jesus. Praise the gods. I'm liking this. Requirements are the usual, just your 2 gigs of disk space, and you're going to need a full version of Contact 5. By the way, guys, Black Friday is rolling around again. Contact 5 is typically 50% off on Black Friday. Seriously, that's something you need to save up and get. You're noticing now, especially with my channel, a lot of really good drum libraries and a lot of really good instruments are using Contact 5. It's definitely worth the purchase. So basically, that covers the store page. Let's go ahead and actually check out this manual and see what it looks like. And then we'll check out the instrument in Sonar. So I got the manual open here. Really easy to find because it's in the same directory as the NKI, so that's nice. Very good presentation here. Professional looking, just like the website. Standard stuff, intro, requirements, description, overview, the velocity mapping, legal stuff, whatever. So scrolling through here just looks like the information that was on the website. Just they repeated it here. However, I'm not complaining. Trust me, the last thing I want to do is load up their website if I have a question of which velocity I need to do. So I'm happy with this. Any manual is a good manual. So manual looks sweet. Good job on that, Panda Sound. Let's go ahead and load it up in Contact now and see what's going on. So as advertised, it's just the DI, as you can see here. Looks like we're at about 1.6 gigabytes, so we're definitely within the 2 gig requirement. Does mean it's heavily multi-sampled, so that's a good thing. Like I said, I was curious about this intelligent alternate picking thing that they were talking about and how it would work. Looking at the interface and then understanding it, it's actually quite simple. So you see we have these 3 knobs here. We got the volume, the hum, and the last one says A pick, obviously alternate picking. We can actually set the milliseconds requirement here in the script that will tell the instrument, how much space is allowed before it should start, doing the alternate picking thing. So if I just hit some notes here a bit slowly like this on my mouse, so it says right here on the interface that they're all downstrokes, right? But if I click furiously, like this, and you can clearly see here that, there's up, down, up, down, up, down, so the alternate picking patterns. This is great because it means we won't have to actually change the velocity for an up and down, up and down. So it'll just do it automatically when we set the milliseconds that we want. So we can close that now. Start looking at how the velocities will actually change the articulations. Now, Sonar users, listen up. The manual states, for example, from C0 to G#0, we've got 2 articulations that we can choose from. But if you're observant, you will realize, hey, wait a minute, I don't have any sounds at C0. I only have sounds at starting from C2. Well, that's because there's actually no standard or convention of how to name the MIDI piano roll or where you start the C0 or whatever. So you can change this actually if you go to your preferences, customization, display, and then there's going to be a bass octave for pitches. If you go ahead and write -2 there, for example, it's going to fix that. Now, this is not a bug or anything, quote, wrong with Sonar. It's just the way Sonar does things. So in the future, if you're working with another instrument and you realize, what, the numbers are all backwards, just, plus or minus on the bass octave for pitches to get it matching for that instrument that you're using. So it's not like a universal fix or anything. There's just no standard. But now you know how to change it in the future. So the special note for Sonar users out of the way here. Just going to demonstrate how incredibly easy it is to program this bass. I programmed a few sections, just 2. We got showing the articulations from C0 to G#, and then I've got a little demo that I'll show you. So from C0 to G#, check it out. Now, frankly, to be honest with you, I don't know who would be tuning so low because this sounds absolutely unintelligible, but hey, drop F is a thing, and if that's what you like to play in, this bass has got you covered. But let's take it further here. Let's look at the second thing that I programmed. It's actually just a little riff that I wrote in like 10 seconds. It's nothing groundbreaking or anything. Now, listen carefully because there are a few things you're going to notice, and we're going to talk about it afterwards. All right? Anyway, so here's the riff. I'm sure you noticed a few strange things happening with that particular riff. Before we go into that, though, you can just see the velocity settings down here in the CC. That's all you have to do. You can just write it in the piano roll and change the velocity settings. Super simple. So once you have memorized, which octave range gets which velocity settings, you're good to go. Now, about those weird little bits, I have found some odd things about this instrument. For example, you just heard one. You heard one of the notes that sounded like dirt. It's very dirty. Actually, it's this one in particular. Now, if I move this note up and down, we still have some weird things happening with it. I don't know what this is, honestly. If I move the note down again, it happens again. If I go down again, then it starts to work correctly. If I go up, there's not a problem. It just looks like there could be a few kinks to work out with some of the notes and articulations. It's just happened by accident to find this one actually creating this particular riff for this demonstration. I also noticed that some of the articulations don't flow well together. What I mean is, like, you'll have a picking sound and then you want to do, for example, like a slide. It's really, really apparent that it's like 2 different patches jammed next to each other. This is, I guess, a little bit to be expected because it is, after all, programmed bass. It's not a real human. But there's quite an audible gap between, like I said, for example, the pick note and then a slide in most cases. However, when it comes to just the picking and the alternate picking, and specifically the alternate picking script, it's spot on. I really like it. And I think it sounds thick and meaty, probably because of the bass, but, you're going to notice in the demo track I'm going to show you just a second here, just like how much the bass is doing and adding to the song. So for this demo track, I did want to create basically like a grindy, chainsaw bass. Seeing as it's just the DI, I decided to use the TSE BOD overdrive pedal, and then just went crazy. Not really crazy with processing, but just standard stuff that I always do on the bass. EQ, moves, compression. I literally did nothing out of the ordinary here, folks. On my bass, I'm pretty much just crushing the bejesus out of it, and there's some shaping EQ on the bus and L1, and that's literally it. In this demo, the bass really makes the song slam, as I was mentioning. I have some sound effects layered throughout and stuff to help, emphasize some of the parts that I would really want, to slam. But with the bass muted, you can totally hear all the energy and all the balls being sucked out of the song. So this bass is playing a huge part of what makes this song slam. Anyway, let's go ahead and listen to the demo. My final thoughts, well, aside from a few strange notes, what I guess they could only be called some sampling or programming errors or bugs, I'm not sure. I'm not a contact instrument programmer. I really like the bass. I like the flexibility I have with it because it's DI. I can make any distortion I want, can do any EQ I want, and if I mess it up, I can always go back to the beginning. I really like that, and I really find the bass to be thick, and the crushing sound I was able to make for the demo track really impressed me. I hope the dudes at Panda Sound, though, I hope they can have a look at some of the samples again, after viewing this video and see if there's anything they can do about it. They've already shown that they're willing to update and fix things because Panda Bass already has a 1.1 version. So I'm sure they'll be happy to have a look and see what happens. All in all, if you're looking for a sweet bass instrument and really honestly you just want like some sick down picking or some sick alternate picking, this bass is going to serve you well with no problems. So that does it for this review, guys. If you found it helpful, a like rating is always appreciated. And by the way, if there are other VST bass instruments or just VST instruments in general that you would like me to have a look at, please let me know in the comments and I'll see what I can do. Subscribe if you haven't yet, because videos like this are always on the way. Thanks a lot, guys. I do appreciate it. Have a good one.